Hey everyone, and welcome back to Country Music Made Me. Thank you so much for joining us once again. As always, please make sure you are liking, sharing, following, subscribing to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on. You can leave us a review, a rating, tell your friends, your family, your neighbors to come on over and have a listen. That support is huge. Today, we're sitting down with Canadian country musician Shawn Austin. Now, he got his big break back in 2017 when he signed with SteelHead Music, but it was actually about 10 years before that his musical career began in bars, coffee shops, and restaurants. Back then, he didn't know if music was just a hobby or if it was a career. And so 2017 was really the Kickstarter to making it a career. 2017 was big, 2018 was bigger, and 2019 was his biggest year yet. And then 2020 hit. Luckily, throughout that time, he has had big things brewing. And in 2021, he announced that he signed with Local Hay Records, which is a joint venture with Big Loud in the United States. And he has a new single, Tailgate To Heaven, featuring Chris Lane. And also, he has new music planned for throughout the year. So please enjoy our conversation with Shawn Austin. Welcome to Country Music Made Me. Thank you so much for taking the time.
Thank you very much.
There's some exciting news. Let's talk about the next couple of weeks first, because things are really starting to take off. What do you have, like 3 or 4 shows that you have coming up the next few weeks?
Yeah, we're going to be pinballing a little bit. We're in Calgary this weekend for Dallas Smith's Lifted hotel shows that are starting, I guess, this weekend. So we're doing that. Then we've got a couple shows back east. We're doing Crooks Rapids. It used to be a drive-in, now it's a regular show, which is awesome. We're playing the Boots and Hearts. Summer Never Dies. That's not the right name, but I'm trying to remember it. And then Rock the Hub in Truro. So it's going to be a pretty killer couple weeks of getting back to what we love to do. You know, a part of me too is a little bit worried at the moment, just simply because we don't want to see this stop. So
Yeah.
with everyone making some of the big guns canceling their tours, we're all kind of like, oh, okay, well, you know, we won't be taking this for granted, but we're going to hope that they're going to continue on through the fall.
Yeah. And you had the Calgary Stampede. That was sort of the first major show. How was
Yeah.
that? What was the energy like? And what was it like for you getting back on stage? Because I've talked to some people who were talking about sort of the nerves going into that and wondering what the feeling was going to be like and ensuring they hadn't lost the passion during that year and a half off. So what was it
Yeah.
like for you?
Definitely no loss of passion for me. I can guarantee that. That was like coming up for a massive breath of air after being underwater for 18 months. I keep telling people it felt so beyond refreshing. I don't really have a good enough term for it. Seeing the crowd there, seeing thousands of people again, seeing everyone kind of having fun about music again. And I really applaud the Stampede for how they conducted everything too. Everything felt safe the entire time. And just to hear, you know, some people singing songs back and to see people dancing a bit and just to get that vibe and to get that energy again, it's like the world's best drug. And this is why I think that, you know, we're excited to play more, but we're also like, we can't lose this again. Like there's no way that we could do another lockdown of any sort. So it's nice to see things and nice to see people, you know, doing what they can to just be safe and keep things going. But let's just hope that the train keeps rolling forward.
Yeah, exactly. And now you're back in Vancouver. That is, of course, where you grew up. Now, let's talk about growing up in
Yeah.
Vancouver. In your early days, were your parents musically inclined in any way?
Definitely. My mom's a operatically trained singer.
Oh,
She's
wow.
pretty incredible on what she can do. And my dad's been he's I mean, he should have been a drummer. He never was. He's got a great sense of beat. But then between the two of them, the my dad introduced me to country and classic rock and basically all the backbone of who I am as an artist now. And then my mom just, you know, kind of I was always really shy as a kid growing up for singing and all that stuff. So everything that I think she was really good at just gently pushing me and gently kind of letting me explore music. And it just kind of all culminated through getting a few opportunities through high school we had a rock band class, we had a jazz band class. So great classes to have, boosted my GPA through the roof. And yeah, the rest just kind of is history after that.
And so, with your mom being classically trained, she very well could have sort of taken that different route of really pushing you towards
Mhm.
music, right? So, how do you think it benefited you with her just sort of nudging you and sort of allowing you to do it on your own rather than saying, here, do this, you have to do this?
Yeah, I think it's obviously I haven't experienced it yet being, I don't have kids of my own, but I think when the day comes, I'm going to use that same strategy simply because I don't think when you're, if something becomes a chore, if something becomes, you have to do this, then a kid's going to be like, I don't want to do it anymore. It's no fun. So for me, it was being able to listen to all genres of music growing up through my dad and then having my mom's expertise kind of guiding what I'm listening to along the way. Just gave a really nice open opportunity for me to kind of explore at my own pace, and it made me lean towards instruments first, piano and guitar. That's kind of all I did, and then kind of slowly worked into vocals and things early high school. So
Okay.
yeah, if I feel like if early days it was like lessons and this and this and that, I probably would have just been like, can't do it. I'll stick to baseball.
Yeah, exactly. And when did you start to pick up the piano and the guitar and start playing?
Piano was early. I was probably 5 or 6.
Oh, okay.
That didn't last as long as I wish it did. That's kind of one of my early regrets is just not keeping up with piano. But then guitar, I was in grade 6 or 7 when it really, I got this fire lit for guitar, and it was driving me nuts that I couldn't make certain chord shapes, play certain songs, and that turned into this obsession that I haven't let go of now. And it's just all through high school, I was that kid in his room driving our neighbors nuts because I had my electric guitar with my amp railed, and yeah, I just sit there and go through YouTube and try and match Stevie Ray Vaughan and Keith Urban and everybody. That was my first foray into really trying to do what I do now.
Right. And you mentioned there was a rock band class in high school. Now, was there ever a point where you didn't really know what genre you wanted to go towards, or were you always leaning towards the country side of things?
Country was always the backbone. It was always kind of the root and the foundation of what I did. In high school, rock took a huge influence. Like my first band was a rock band. We were called the Suits. It was terrible.
What age were you when you started that?
Oh, 13 or 14 probably. And I remember our very first show, and we were called the Suits. So naturally, we send a memo out to everybody. You got to wear a suit.
Well,
Like
of course.
and it looks so cheesy. But of course, our bass player completely either misses the memo or forgets or something and shows up in a Iron Maiden sleeveless t-shirt, ripped jeans. So there's four of us in suits and then him. And it looked very, classic high school rock band.
Right.
And there are video out there of that first performance, and I hope they never see the light of day again.
Well, I
They're
saw a
terrible.
photo on your social media. Was that from that first performance? Do you remember that photo that you posted from your high school performance?
No, I know which one you're talking about. That was from when I was in rock band. There's a photo.
Oh, okay.
I might have to try and dig it up from the photo I posted is probably 2 or 3 years after the first rock band. If I
Okay.
can find it, I'll post it, and you can really see what a mess we were at the start.
So how long did that last then?
Oh, couple months maybe.
Oh, okay. It wasn't like
That
a
that
year long thing or anything.
that iteration of it didn't last too long. And this was the nice thing about having an actual class where we could do rock band stuff, was because then the few of us that actually went into the class were able to, 4 or 5 times a week in an actual studio environment, practice, play, learn, figure out dynamics, figure out how to play with other people. It wasn't just in a garage making a bunch of noise. There was actually some structure to it, so it was a proper learning environment to try and rope in these 14-year-old brains of ours at the time.
And so after high school, you played ball. That
Yeah,
was sort of your focus, was possibly going pro with baseball.
yeah.
And injuries caught up with you. But before that time, before you hit 20, was music something that you saw beyond high school and beyond baseball, or did it not really kick in until you finished baseball?
I think it was. I always knew that I had a knack for music, and I really enjoyed. I did a bunch. I hate admitting this, but I did a few. I was Danny Zuko in the High School Musical. I did a few things like that. So I
Oh,
had these
okay.
experiences of being on stage in front of people, and I love that. And I recognized that the response was always good. But yeah, I mean, at the time, I just thought it was going to be a hobby, and I didn't, I guess, have enough worldly understanding of what I was doing. So baseball was everything. Baseball, I was having success with it, getting looked at by certain teams, playing in a pretty high level ball. So that was definitely my first thought of being my career, or at least where I wanted to go.
Yeah.
And then, yeah, injuries and the politics of the game changed my future with that real quick. But that was the thing, is I had music right after that. I remember I started working in restaurants, and that turned into me playing in bars and restaurants after my shifts.
Oh,
I'd
okay.
be playing in pubs and you name it. And that I did that for 12 years, and I wouldn't change that experience for anything. Having that back, or that foundation of just me and a guitar playing in front of tons of different people, tons of different age groups, and trying to learn how to click with people
Yeah.
was everything for me.
And how many cover songs did you know?
Oh, hundreds, hundreds. It was I'm the first 4 or 5 years I was doing it. I had a binder in front of me that was easily 4, 5, 6 inches thick, just filled with music. But and it drove me nuts carrying that around, because I already had all my PA stuff, everything. So I remember really trying to drill down, and I didn't want to use the book anymore. Learned like 300 or so songs,
Wow.
and I just kind of ran those at random, depending on what the room was doing. Everything from classic rock, reggae, folk, singer-songwriter, pop, and then the Christmas tunes. And, there was no shortage of a range of stuff I was doing.
Wow. And I think I read that your first show was a small coffee shop right around your house. Now, do you remember that show and sort of what your feeling was? Because like you say, you performed in high school, but was this
Yeah.
sort of the first time of being a pseudo professional musician?
Yeah, no, it was a place called the Bakehouse. It's actually still just down the street from me. It was a Sunday afternoon gig. I think I started at 1 o'clock till 3, and I just sat there and played some songs and bashed through, like, learning how to dial in live sound, like trying to make it all sound half decent. And I thought I was just doing terribly for the first 45 minutes, and I took a break, and I had three different people come up asking if I could play their events.
Oh, really?
And yeah, and it was right out of my first, like you said, my first real pro paid gig. And then I'm like, oh, okay, well, maybe I'm doing something right here. Maybe I can keep doing this. And that did open. I think I booked all three shows, played a bunch of gigs, kept playing at the Bakehouse. Some of my best memories of music early days were at the Bakehouse. I met Michael Bublé there. I met
Oh, wow.
some other influential people within the industry, and that kind of probably lit the fire for me to start to go, oh, well, if I can make this a career, then let's do it.
And what year was that show?
Ooh, 2007, probably.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's some time ago now, but it
Yeah.
was the year I graduated, and I was doing that. I was in restaurants playing a little bit of baseball at the same time, but that's when baseball was starting to wind down. Not that I
Okay.
recognized it then, but
Yeah.
yeah, it was 2007.
Wow. And there was also the Village Tap House in Park Royal. Now, what
Yeah.
does that venue mean to you within your journey?
I want to own that place one day. I really do. That was for 5 years, that was my home, my second home. I had tons of buddies there. I basically met my wife there. I played so much. I was playing there 3 nights a week. Sometimes I'd play 5 nights a week, depending on what was going on in the city. And that was my place where I kind of became known as the guy playing at the tap house. People would come all from all over the kind of the North Shore where I am to come hang out, and people would request songs, and some nights were just absolute parties. Like when you have that everything clicks and you get that vibe and everyone's in a good mood. Sometimes it was after a Canucks game when they won or during the playoffs. I've got a trillion memories from that place, and it's always gonna have that spot in my heart, in my mind, that I don't think I'll ever recreate that.
And you've mentioned, I think, that some songs are even written about that place. Are there
Yeah.
certain songs that come to mind that you remember the feeling of that place being put into a song?
Yeah, I've got a song called I Can Be Him, which is about my wife now. And there's visuals about seeing her there. And there's a song that's out right now that a guy named Nate Holler recorded called Lightning
Okay.
in a Bottle.
Oh yeah.
And there's a whole bunch of imagery from that too. Like you talking about, the girl in a crowded bar at a booth, peeling a label off a bottle, like all of that in my mind was Tap House memories. So yeah, and I'm sure there's going to be more to come, because that was such a massive 5 years of my life, being part of that restaurant. So holds a special place.
And that songwriting, when did you start songwriting? When did that start to become a thing for you?
That was later on. I think that was more into my early mid 20s. I started going, once writing cover or playing covers started to get not old, but I'm kind of like, I wanted to figure out a way to just do a little bit more.
Yeah.
So that caused me to just put pen to paper. And I've been a huge John Mayer fan for a long time, for as long as I can remember. So I remember really trying to emulate the way he writes. What I found was that I don't like writing solo.
Right.
It's one of those things where you write something on a piece of paper and it's like, nah, this sucks. Get it away. And then after I got signed and understood how co-writing works, that was a game changer for me, because now I don't have that allowance to just not pay attention to an idea. It was a great experience to be like, no, 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 hang on, let's drill down on that a bit. Let's see what you got there. And I equate a lot of things to my baseball thing. Working with a team is by far my choice of working in any capacity. So going forward, co-writing, more writing as the world opens up and I can be down in Nashville some more. I really want to flex that muscle a bit more in the future.
And you talk about Nashville. When was the first time you went down there, and what have those journeys meant to just understanding the country music business on a whole outside of Canada?
My first trip was probably 2013. I went down to Nash, and I have a friend that's down there. I'd done a competition a few years before, and we stayed good friends. And I remember meeting her down there, and she's like, we were just kind of having a blue sky conversation. What did I ask her? I said, "What do I have to do in your eyes to kind of take this to the next level?" And she goes, "If you want this, you've got to want it. You got to start focusing on who you are as an artist. You got to be down here, as in Nashville." And I just remember everything from that conversation. I walked away going, "Okay, totally different perspective now." And it was a very much a catalyst to go, now I need to figure out how to pivot from being a cover guy to an artist and really develop myself as who I want to be going forward.
Yeah. And what was that like? Because, like you talk about, for like 10, 12 years before that, you're playing covers. That's who
Yeah,
you are. You're a cover guy. And then when you think about going solo, all of a sudden, like you say, you have to find your sound, you have to find yourself. So,
yeah.
what was that process like for you?
It was definitely probably hit or miss. Everyone always compared me to Mayer, probably because I spent too much time just wanting to be like him, I loved his sound, I loved his guitar playing. So that was the first kind of, okay, well, you're not Mayer, but let's figure out Mayer plus what. So I remember just kind of starting to go, I'm not going to try to sound like anything. I'm not going to try to, I don't want to consciously be working towards a sound. I just started playing and started writing and started listening to. That's when I really went back to country, and I started listening to old stuff and started listening to where the new stuff was going. And incredibly, it was around that time too where I heard Dallas Smith's Somebody Somewhere. And I was a huge Default fan in high school. We covered a whole bunch of Default stuff.
Right.
I remember hearing him going, I know that voice, and thinking, okay, well, he still sounds like Default once I figured out who it was. And yet this works so well in country. So I'm like, okay, well, why am I trying to sound like something else? Why don't I just do what I do and
Right.
then go from there? And that's all I did. And then as I started writing more and tried to polish who I was as an artist, we put out a song called Nashville independently before I even met Dallas.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I saw that song on Spotify, but it's rarely mentioned anywhere else on in the
Yeah,
online universe.
yeah, that was a song that a bunch my friends and I wrote, and then we put it out just as a independent track to get the ball rolling. And that was a song that Dallas heard that caused him to take a shot with me. And that's when
Okay.
I signed with SteelHead shortly after that, after I put that song out. So that was that was about a 5 year process, but that was the 5 years where I went from being a John Mayer tribute act to I think finding who I was as Shawn Austin.
And it was in 2017, early 2017 that you signed. And I saw after that just how quickly things started to take off. And you kind of
Yeah,
mentioned on social media that you couldn't really believe it because after all those years of sort of grinding it out and then making this decision, this is what I want to do. How
yeah.
surprising was it in those first, 6 months, a year after signing, just how much there was to do and what having a career in country music entailed?
Yeah, it was absolute whirlwind. So just before I signed, or I guess about 6 months before I met Dallas, I was a financial advisor, and I gave
Okay.
myself a year. I said, I have 1 year to really figure out how to take this to the next level. I was playing 10 shows a week, doing the financial advisor thing, just dead, completely dead. And so I said, if I can't do this in a year, music's going to be pushed aside a little bit, and I'm really gonna, focus on work and all that. But then I met Dallas, signed with Steelhead, put out Paradise Found, and the world completely changed overnight, pretty much. And it was when you're a new artist, you always think it's going to take three, four, five, six singles,
Hmm.
5 years to get things moving. I mean,
Yeah.
I think that's reasonable, but it just goes to how amazing the country fans are in Canada, how great Canadian radio is, how great the team was for elevating this new guy right out of the gates. And we something clicked, and having that go to top 10 and being part of Dallas's Side Effects tour, it was just being thrown into the deep end of how what the industry is and how a career can be. And it
Yeah.
was the final check off the box that I'm not giving this up for anything. This is where I'm meant to be. This is what I love to do, and I feel very lucky to kind of be here now and actually be able to do it every day.
And was there a moment in like 2017, 2018? You mentioned like being on the radio, going top 10, the Side Effects tour with Dallas. Was there a moment that you can remember within that whirlwind of the feeling the nail in the coffin that this was going to work and this was going to be your career now?
Yeah, it was the end of the tour. We had finished in Abbotsford, basically a hometown show.
Yeah.
And the day before, Dallas was telling me that JR Country it had popped to number one on their charts. So he's like, "This is unreal. We're gonna do Paradise Found tomorrow." It was the first time we did it on the entire show because him and I were trading off on one of his tracks.
Oh, okay.
So showtime comes. I'm nervous. There's 9, 10,000 people. It was a sellout. I can't remember how many people were there. And this is the end of a 2 month run. I'm buzzing for months, on how great this was. And then we do his song, and then my time comes up for Paradise Found, and here I am thinking that Dallas is going to do it with me. We'll trade off verse, chorus, and he walks off the stage, and he leaves me high and dry in front of all these people at his show. And we start with that little opening lick on Paradise Found, and the crowd lit up, and I don't remember those 3 minutes.
I
I don't have
bet.
any recollection. I've seen video now, so I know what happened, but it was it was completely surreal, out of body, and that was the final hard nail in the coffin. That was. I mean, I don't. I hope I have a moment like that again in music, but that was so big. It's tough to describe.
And another moment I know that's tough to describe is hearing yourself on the radio for the first
Yeah.
time. Just quickly talk about that and the emotions that you had when that happened.
Yeah, I remember the Friday when Jackson from JR Country called or sent me a text saying that, hey, you might want to listen to the radio in the next 20 minutes. Something might play. And I was running some errands or doing something, but I took a detour down to, we've got a beach down here called Ambleside Beach. Right at the end of it is a cul-de-sac that overlooks the water and Lionsgate Bridge. And I just stopped my car, and the minute I stopped and hit park, Paradise Found came on. That was another surreal moment where you're just going like, this is how it starts. This is nothing that I even expected would have happened this quick. Hearing yourself on the radio, hearing a song that you put, your heart into, and releasing that into the world, and kind of recognizing that people are digging it as well. It just made the fire bigger, that that's what I want to keep doing. If people keep connecting with what we're putting out, that's the goal. That's, trying to make it recognize that everyone, we're all in the same boat in in different capacities. It's just, we all have the same experiences for the most part, and that's why I love country, because it's, what do they say, the broad specific, where a song might be about a specific topic, but it's in a space where everyone can relate in some way. So that was Paradise Found for me, and that was, yeah, I mean, it never gets old though. I hear every time I hear myself on the radio anywhere in it's pretty special.
And now 2019 was a big year. You had a lot of festivals. The
Yeah.
summer festival tour that you had going on in 2019 was amazing. So what was that like? And then sort of what was it like in 2020 heading in back into that and
Yeah.
realizing, oh, that's not going to happen?
Yeah. So thankful that we had 2019. That was my biggest year for shows and for hitting the big stages, and just again solidifying that, look at all these people that are music lovers like me, and look at how much of a party and how much of like, this is what life is to me. Just having those opportunities where you can have fun, let loose, have a drink, have a few drinks. So that was pretty incredible to be part of some of the major festivals, and meeting so many people, and just being a fan of country myself, seeing the artists that I was able to see. I mean, that was almost just as good as performing for
Right.
me. And then we got excited because 2020 was lighting up to be this huge year. There was tours that were never announced. There was collaborations that were never came to fruition, and it was a gut punch for myself and everyone. We all kind of recognized, unfortunately, as the year went on, that was going to be a bit of a write-off year, and it took a good few months for me to get into a better headspace that we were going to come out of it. There's a lot of silver linings too, because 2020 created what we're doing now. And I keep telling everyone, what I learned in 2020 was patience, from having to keep. I did a show called Songland with NBC. I had to keep that under wraps. I had to, when I learned that Local Hay and this Big Loud joint venture were going to start, I had to keep that under wraps. New
How far
songs
in
under wraps.
advance? How far in advance did you know of that signing?
Realistically, about a year.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I shouldn't say that I knew, like I knew that the direction that things were going, but it wasn't, I didn't know the details on what was happening. I just knew that there was talk of maybe some merger like this occurring. So, but I still had to, I talked to the team about it, but nobody else could really know.
Yeah.
And I was excited because I knew that some doors might open because of it. And that kind of plays into how the new single Tailgate to Heaven came to fruition, where initially that was only supposed to be a song that I was on, and we were going to do a different song with Chris Lane.
Oh, okay.
But he heard it and he loved it, and he asked if he could be on it. And we're like, absolutely. Like, why wouldn't you're like, it'd be incredible. And it completely elevated the track, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, 2020 turned was a lot of good things came out of a lot of bad things of that year.
Yeah. How important were those things? Signing the record deal, having that song with Chris Lane, knowing
Yeah,
that stuff was coming. How important was that for getting you through 2020? If you didn't have those
yeah,
things to look forward to, would coming out of it have looked different for you?
I think so. I really do. Having things to look forward to big things was a mental game changer. I went from early on in the year thinking, okay, well, I'm not going to play music for this year. 2021 is going to open up. I felt kind of like I was going to have to restart a little bit because I felt like we lost steam. But then the signing, the songs, and that, I mean, we're sitting on a bunch of other songs too that we'll be releasing soon that all kind of were part of the package of going. I felt like I was able to sit back a little bit and go, we're working hard, we're doing a lot of stuff. It's just in a different capacity right now. So we might not be doing the live shows, but we're really building the business. And I was able to, I looked at it as the second chapter of the start of what I hope to be a long career now. And it just, with the team that we have now and everything that's going on, I'm pretty excited. And I mean, there's a lot of work to do, but I'm really happy and feel pretty good about where we are and where we're going.
And of course, local hay is Dallas Smith,
Yeah.
leading that. Now, thinking back to releasing your single Nashville independently, it was because of that Dallas heard you. It's because of that Dallas took you on your very first Canada-wide tour. It's because of that you're now signed. So how important has Dallas been? Like, it seems like that moment was just integral to this becoming a career.
Absolutely. Having a guy like Dallas in your corner, it's untouchable. It is so the wealth of experience, the success that he's had in multiple genres, his understanding of the business of music, all of that is massive, but you can take it all away and he's just Dallas Smith. And he's a guy that has a heart bigger than he's ever going to admit. He's so smart about just being a good person and how to operate the industry in a really social way. It is business for him, but he's the guy that everyone wants to be around just because he's a good guy. And knowing that he's in my corner and knowing that I can go to him anytime for advice, I couldn't ask for anything more. I really couldn't. And again, being a fan of his from, when I was 12 years old, he hates when I say that, but it's true. And it's been an amazing full circle 5 years now being able to work with him. And normally when an artist switches labels, you think something's bad or something didn't work. So having now my old team with a new team and just building on that wealth of knowledge is, lucky is not a good enough word to describe how I feel about it.
And now moving forward with the new team, what is the plan? You mentioned more music. Are we just going to see singles coming out, or is there going to be a packaged EP that we can look forward to?
I think so. This is the day-to-day fluidity of coming out of the pandemic, because we're trying to figure out what the smartest move is.
Right.
It's going to be an EP, I believe, and it could build into an album over the next year, let's say. But I think for sure we've got an EP's worth of solid music that we're going to trickle out over the next few months, really building for the live show for next year, and hopefully showing people where we're going. I think sonically, this is the best stuff I've ever put out. I feel more confident about my voice more than ever. And it's fun to kind of have this. I'm 5 years in. I feel like I know the game a little bit now myself. And when I'm in the studio, it's nice. I feel like I'm experimenting a little bit more and really trying to push to find new sounds or just things that I haven't done before or I didn't think I could do. So it's been a nice, another silver lining out of the pandemic is just having that time to really investigate who I am as an artist more. And the next year should be pretty cool.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations on all the success and the success that you're having coming out of this brutal year. And we'll look forward to the new music.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you once again so much for listening. And thank you to Shawn for stopping by and sharing his story. Be sure to check out his new single, Tailgate to Heaven, featuring Chris Lane, wherever you stream your music, and keep an eye out for more music coming later this year. Please also make sure to like, share, follow, subscribe to us on whatever streaming service you are listening on. Leave a review, a rating, tell your friends, your family, your neighbors to come on over and have a listen. That support is huge. Thanks once again for listening, and we'll see you next time on Country Music Made Me.